Now you can start.
Okay. Good afternoon and welcome to this regular council meeting. It is January 15th, 2025. It is 5 p.m. and I will start this meeting. Clerk Tara, if you would get us started, please.
Moved by Dreyfus, seconded by Pemberton, that the meeting of the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich opens at 5 p.m. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, I just have a few comments for everyone here, and I presume you're not here for the drainage meetings. We will probably be about an hour before we get to the clerk's report that is of interest to most of the folks here, just so you know. Okay, it is a regular council meeting. It is not an open meeting. Therefore, the public does not have speaking privileges at this meeting. You're welcome to stay and listen to council, but it is a regular council meeting. But I would commit to hanging around after the meeting to answer any questions that folks may have. Okay? Okay, number 2 on the agenda is our land acknowledgement. Councillor Pemberton, please.
We will begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of First Nations people who have longstanding relationships to the land, water, and region of southwestern Ontario. We also acknowledge that the local Lower Thames River watershed communities, which include Chippewa of the Thames First Nation, Oneida Nation of the Thames, Munsee Delaware Nation, and Delaware Nation of Moraviantown. We value the significant historical and contemporary contributions of local and regional First Nations and all of the original peoples of Turtle Island, North America. We are thankful for the opportunity to live, learn, and share with mutual respect and admiration or appreciation.
Thank you. I would remind council of any declaration of pecuniary interest. Seeing none, we'll move to the adoption of the draft minutes that were included in your agenda package. Are there any errors or omissions? See none, they will be adopted as presented to council in the agenda package. Clerk Tara, are there any items not listed on the agenda?
There is a request for delegation that was received after the deadline that's outlined in our procedural bylaw. A vote will take place after planning and before correspondence as to whether council will allow the delegation to be heard at this meeting, which will require a 2/3 majority.
Okay, thank you. We will move right into our drainage issues, and they include a court of revision. Clerk Tara, please, if you would take us there.
Moved by Pemberton, seconded by Drewler, that the regular meeting end to sit as a court of revision for the David Carroll Drain and David Carroll Drain number 3 at 5:03 p.m. All in favor? And that's carried. Moved by Loveland, seconded by Pemberton, that the meeting of the Court of Revision to hold a public meeting for the David Carroll Drain and David Carroll Drain number 3 opens at 5:03 p.m. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, thank you. I guess the first item is the minutes of the previous meeting from November 22nd, 2023. Clerk Tara, please.
Are there any changes to the minutes? Then they are adopted as presented.
Okay, thank you. This is the Court of Revision as required by the Drainage Act to afford any person assessed in the David Carroll Drain provisionally adopted by bylaw 2024-54 on November 27, 2024.
Yes.
To make an appeal with respect to their assessments on the grounds of land or road has been assessed too high or too low, land or road should have been assessed but was not, due consideration has not been given to the land's use. I would ask that all landowner and interested properties present that are assessed to this drain, please sign the attended sheet that is being circulated.
So there is a table on the side there that if you're here for the drainage meeting, please sign in.
Okay. Was everyone notified in an appropriate way that are required to be notified under the Drainage Act?
Yes, on Wednesday, December 4th, 2024, all parties were required to be notified under Section 46 of the Drainage Act were hand-delivered notice of the date, time, and location of this meeting. Because of the postal strike, landowners and affected parties that we had email addresses on file for were also emailed a copy of the provisional bylaw with a notice of the sitting of this Court of Revision. On Wednesday, December 18th, 2024, an email notice of the sitting of this Court of Revision was sent again to landowners. This notice also informed all landowners of the Drainage Act requirement to notify the clerk in writing of an appeal to the Court of Revision 10 days prior to the first sitting of this Court of Revision.
Thank you. Did the clerk receive any appeals in writing 10 days prior to this sitting of the Court of Revision from any assessed landowners?
No.
Okay, thank you. I think that wraps that one up.
Moved by Pemberton, seconded by Drillard, that the Court of Revision accepts the assessment for the David Carroll drain. All in favor?
Yeah.
And that's carried.
Good, thank you.
Trimming off branches.
Didn't honk or anything on my bike, so.
Yeah.
And now we have the David Carroll number 3 drain.
Shot.
So I'll just correct again.
It's this one.
It's just dirt. It's not gonna come off.
Okay.
Well, I had the.
Oh, for when you're clean.
The drain.
This is the Court of Revision as required by the Drainage Act to afford to any person assessed on the David Carroll Drain number 3 provisionally adopted by bylaw 2024-55 on November 27, 2024. To make an appeal with respect to their assessments on the grounds of the land or road has been assessed too high or too low, land or road should have been assessed but was not, due consideration has not been given to the land's use. I would ask that all landowners and interested properties present that are assessed to this drain, please sign the attendance sheet that is being circulated. Was everyone notified in an appropriate way that are required to be notified under the Drainage Act?
Yes, on Wednesday, December 4th, 2024, all parties required to be notified under Section 46 of the Drainage Act were hand-delivered notice of the date, time, and location of this meeting. Because of the postal strike, landowners and affected parties that we had email addresses on file for were also emailed a copy of the provisional bylaw with a notice of the sitting of this Court of Revision. On Wednesday, December 18th, 2024, an email notice of the sitting of this Court of Revision was sent again to landowners. This notice also informed all landowners of the Drainage Act requirement to notify the clerk in writing of an appeal to the Court of Revision 10 days before the first sitting of this Court of Revision.
Thank you. Did the clerk receive any appeals in writing 10 days prior to this sitting of this Court of Revision from any assessed landowners?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Moved by Drillard, seconded by Dreyfus, that the Court of Revision accepts the assessment for the David Carroll Drain number 3. All in favor? And that's carried. Moved by Dreyfus, seconded by Loveland, that the meeting of the Court of Revision for the David Carroll Drain and David Carroll Drain number 3 closes at 5:09 p.m. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you.
Moved by Drillard, seconded by Loveland, that the regular meeting of council reconvenes at 5:09 p.m. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you, Tara. Item 7 on the agenda is the Planning Department, and we have an application for part lot control exemption. Brokenshire Farm subdivision. And I expect, I see Planner Tracy with us virtually. Go ahead with your report, Tracy.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the members of council. So this is an application for a part lot control exemption. An application was submitted by the property owners. Pre-consultation was completed. It applies to 137A and 137B Harvest Lane. It is part of the Brokenshire Farms subdivision. A semi-detached dwelling was constructed on the subject land, and then each unit will be sold individually. So there's a common wall down the center. So part lot control is a tool under the toolbox that council can use under the Planning Act that will allow them to be exempt from a severance application. Exemption is only allowed if there's an actual plan of subdivision. The exemption is only good for 2 years, But in this situation, there's a closing of a sale pending for January 17th. So this will be plenty of time for them to be able to complete the transfer of land, and then each individual unit will be owned separately. So there's no notice required. However, commenting agencies and departments were circulated. No concerns were raised that impact the bylaw. So tonight, at the end of your agenda, council will enact a bylaw for those two properties, and then that bylaw will be forwarded to the County of Elgin. They are the actual final approval authority. The bylaw will then be signed off, sent to the applicant, and they'll register that on the deed or the title of the property, they being the applicant. So I'm happy to answer any questions at the appropriate time.
Thank you, Tracy, for that report. Does council have any questions? It's quite clear, Tracy. I see no questions. Clerk Tara, please.
Moved by Loveland, seconded by Dreyfus, that the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives the report of the planner titled Application for Part Lot Control Exemption, PLC 0125, Brokenshire Farm Subdivision, 34T DD 2001, 137A and 137B Harvest Lane, Rhine Homes Incorporated, dated January 15th, 2025 for information, and that council enacts the required bylaws so as to remove the properties located at 137A and 137B Harvest Lane from part lot control for a temporary period of 2 years, and that council directs administration to forward the enacted bylaw to the County of Elgin for approval. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you. Item B is 11342 Curry Road, request to proceed with site plan control application with the current wastewater capacity. Tracy, your report, please.
Yes, thank you very much. Again, through you, Mr. Mayor, to the members of council. So this report has been prepared for your information only. As council is aware, there is limited wastewater capacity in order to accommodate both current and future development in the settlement of Dutton. If you recall, council did previously ask administration to look at options for an interim control bylaw, which is a moratorium to pause new development. At the February 2024 council meeting, council directed not to impose an interim control bylaw. And they also took a look at servicing allocation policies, and council at that time chose not to impose a policy. So we've been dealing with these applications on a case-by-case basis. On November 13th, 2024, the agent for the applicant at the noted property did attend a council meeting and as a delegation and asked council to allow for what we've been working with them on, a scaled down project, which includes a truck station building with a truck canopy, a convenience store, gas canopy, an on-site parking area, internal roadways, a stormwater management, and then there's some future development area identified. The property is also landlocked. And again, we've only done pre-consultation on this. We haven't done a formal thorough review, and we haven't received any support studies. So at that council meeting, the agent asked for council's sort of support of whether they can move forward through that formal site plan control process based on what current capacity there exists. At that meeting, council directed administration to consult with Dillon Consulting to see how this might impact the wastewater treatment plant and its current capacity. Dillon did take a look at the sanitary design flow report that was prepared by the applicant in addition to the revised concept plan. Dillon did provide administration with the comment that what they saw was acceptable, and that the proposed development does not make a significant impact on today's capacity. But they did caution and made sure that we shared this with you, that there might be some issues with further development in the area. So as development starts rolling through its process, this one might be okay, but the next one might not. So with respect to how administration is making recommendations, we do still have some concerns with the current capacity, including the proposed development with the Katam development group. The concerns that we have is by allowing development on this sort of case-by-case basis, it still may put a strain on that capacity. It might be a little unfair as well for other developers who are actually closer to Planning Act approvals than this particular development. How do we put these developments in order, and how do we allocate capacity, and how much capacity do we have to allocate? Development should generally occur in an orderly manner. And by allowing this particular scale down development, sort of leapfrogging over other lands, especially the lands to the south, who are closer to the roadway and are actually closer through the site plan control process. So we're kind of allowing for the back end of the property to be developed and not the south end. So at this time, administration is still of the opinion that allowing the Katam development to proceed is premature at this time until such time that capacity can be resolved. Please know that the applicant always has other servicing options that they can move forward with. One is not allowing any development that has any effluent, putting in a temporary septic system would be another option, or even putting on a on-site wastewater treatment facility. The administration has been working with another private group where there are sea cans and they just actually drop it off, and it's a little mini pollution control plant. And then when we have capacity, then this sort of sea can just moves on to another property. So there are certainly other temporary on-site options that developers can take into consideration to allow for the development to move forward. Also, at your November 13th meeting, council did also suggest that it might be ideal for all the developers to meet together and give administration all of their capacity needs, especially the developments on the south along Pioneer Line, so that all the commercial uses sort of need to be shared. There seems to be a little bit of duplication. There's also possibly a need for them to maybe work together in being able to find a solution for their own development to be able to proceed. So in conclusion, administration has received the comments from Dylan, and we would like to present them to you for information only. Now, council can certainly direct administration differently tonight. If you do want them to proceed, that's certainly the will of council, but we certainly do not want to encourage them to move forward until we have a better idea. And in fact, actually, no development should proceed until the wastewater treatment capacity is resolved. So happy to answer any questions at the appropriate time on this one.
Thank you, Tracy, for that report. Does council have any questions of Mayor Tracy? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Loveland.
Really no questions, just a comment that I really think it's wise we continue with the meeting with all three of those developers that are proposing similar type development. I just think it is not very good for all three of them to be spending money going in the same direction. So I really think we need to do that. Been asking that for 3 or 4 years, and it's time it happened. I think they get on the same page.
Okay. Any other questions from council? So Deputy Mayor Loveland, can we direct staff to organize or start that process and see what works?
Certainly, if there's a motion required to make it, that would be good.
Okay, I'll refer that to the clerk, whether that's necessary. Okay, I see no further questions from council. You have a resolution with a recommendation?
No, there wasn't a resolution based on that, but I can do one to arrange a meeting with the 3 developers at the corner of Pioneer and Curry to discuss.
For Tracy's.
Yep.
Okay. Go ahead, Clerk Tara, we have two resolutions.
Moved by Dreyfus, seconded by Drewlart, that the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives the report of the planner titled 11342 Curry Road, request to proceed with site plan control application with the current wastewater capacity dated January 15th, 2025 for information, and that council directs staff to arrange a meeting with the three developers at the corner of Pioneer Line and Curry Road to discuss a coordinated approach to wastewater. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you. Item C, it's an application for zoning bylaw amendment. So Clerk Tara, that is a. Oh, do we? Okay. What time is it going to be? 5:21. Okay. We have to wait a little bit. We can deal with number 8. I'll just hold off. Okay, we'll keep the meeting moving. We're going to jump down to correspondence. We're filling time here. There's a legality that we cannot start that next meeting till 5:30. And the first item is Paul Daniel, Dutton Cruise in. Everyone has received a copy of Paul's proposal. Are there any questions from council? See none, Clerk Tara, please.
Moved by Drewlart, seconded by Pemberton, that the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich supports the closure of Curry Road from Mary Street to Shackleton Street for the Dutton Cruise In on the following dates: May 28th, 2025, June 25th, 2025, July 30th, 2025, August 27th, 2025, and September 24th, 2025. And that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to Paul Daniels and Peter Duchek, Director of Engineering Services at the County of Elgin. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, thank you. We have correspondence from the town of Kearney. It has to do with rural additional residential units. Council wish to comment on that item. Clerk Tara, resolution, please.
Moved by Pemberton, seconded by Loveland, that the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich supports the letter from the town of Kearney to Paul Calandra, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, regarding the one-size-fits-all approach to ARUs, and that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to Rob Flack, MPP, Karen Vecchio, MP, and the town of Kearney. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you. Town of Elmer, opposition to provincial legislation on cycling lanes and support for municipal authority in transportation planning. Any comments from council on that one? Okay. Go ahead. Okay, please.
Moved by Loveland, seconded by Dreyfus, that the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich supports the resolution from the town of Elmer opposing the provincial legislation governing bicycle lanes and affirming support for maintaining municipal jurisdiction over cycling infrastructure decisions, and that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to Rob Flack, MPP, Karen Vecchio, MP, and the town of Elmer. All in favor? And that's carried.
Item D, the municipality of South Huron, and it's concerning Heritage Advisory Committee. Any comments on that one? Councillor Dreyfus.
Yes, I'd like to speak to that if you don't mind. The ask is specifically geared to designation of homes within local municipalities. And the ask is allowing the designation of homes even if they're not on the registry. And so I guess the previous act allowed a certain time period when there was a demolition permit applied for, that if the community deemed it as having a heritage potential, that they had the opportunity to proceed with that process. As it stands right now, the bill requires us to have a heritage registry where we have all the homes listed on the registry. I believe Dutton Dunwich has almost 90 homes on that registry. I think the Heritage Committee has done a great job in identifying the homes that they would like to see designated over a certain period of time. I don't think we need to go any further beyond that if the community hasn't identified a heritage home at the stage or the point of identifying the home for the registry, then I don't think we should go beyond that as a municipality and allow councils to take that necessary step. The other problem that I see with this is that there are some developers that will not buy a property that is on the registry or will buy a property that is designated because they don't want to go through the problems of having a community such as we have experienced in the last little while up in arms about taking down a home that is on the registry. They actually buy properties that are not on the registry for that reason. So I'm strongly against this in principle, that we still have a process for heritage designation. The process is in place. I think it's a good process. I think the community is doing a good enough job at doing what it needs to do, and I don't want to add any more layers of problems to development in general. So that's my opposition to this motion. So.
Any further comments? Do you wish to propose a resolution yourself?
I would propose that I would like to be removed from as the mover of the motion and let council decide.
Okay. Clerk Tara, we do have a resolution prepared for this one.
Yep. Is there somebody that would like to move the motion? All right, so I've moved by Pemberton, seconded by Drouillard, that the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich supports the resolution from the Municipality of South Huron requesting the Province of Ontario to reconsider the amendment to subsection 29 1.2 of the Ontario Heritage Act, and that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to Rob Flack, MPP, Karen Vecchio, MP, and the Municipality of South Huron. Those in favor? And that is defeated.
Okay, thank you. The next one, we can squeeze it in, I think. Municipality of Kincardine, its property taxation implications related to non-market valuation of electricity industry properties. Anyone care to speak to that? That one. I see no one. Clerk Terry, resolution, please.
Moved by Drouillard, seconded by Pemberton, that the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich supports the resolution from the Municipality of Kincardine requesting the province undertake an immediate review and update the property tax assessment model for Ontario's nuclear generation facilities and other properties within the electricity industry, and that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to Rob Flack, MPP, Karen Vecchio, MP, and the Municipality of Kincardine. All those in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, thank you. We're getting close to 5:30, so we're gonna. Okay,
Moved by Pemberton, seconded by Loveland, that the relevant correspondence was reviewed. All in favor? And that's carried.
thank you. Okay, it is 5:30 on my computer anyway. Under planning, item C was an application for zoning bylaw amendment. ZBA 08/24-27685 Marsh Line in the municipality of Dutton Dunwich by James Murray. Tara, if you would get us into that meeting, please.
Moved by Drouillard, seconded by Pemberton, that the public meeting for zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 08/24 filed by James Murray for property located at 27685 Marsh Line opens at 5:30 PM. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you. This is a public meeting as required by Section 34 of the Planning Act to afford any person an opportunity to make representation with respect to a proposed zoning bylaw amendment to rezone the subject property from agricultural A1 zone to site-specific exemption, special agricultural A2-24 zone and special rural residential RS zone. The subject property is locally known as 27685 Marsh Line in the municipality of Dutton Dunwich. Does any member of council have a disclosure of interest concerning the proposals? Done. What method of notice and when was the notice given to the public for this meeting?
A sign was posted on the subject property by the December 20th, 2024 deadline, and notices were hand-delivered to property owners within 120 meters of the subject property on December 18th, 2024.
Thank you. I would now ask our planner, Tracy, to present your report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, through you and to the members of council. So this is a zoning bylaw amendment application that was brought forward by the applicant and the property owner. It was a condition of consent from the Elgin County Land Division, E9024. The proposal was assessed at the time of the land division application. So we're just now dealing with one of the conditions of approval, which is the zoning bylaw amendment. Again, the notices were hand delivered 120 meters of the property. The report summarizes all of the comments received by commenting agencies. There isn't anything that needs to be red flagged. There are no comments received from the public. So as that condition of severance for zoning, it was required to rezone the severed parcel to a special rural residential zone to permit non-residential uses, and the retained parcel to be rezoned to an A2-24, which is a site-specific exemption to prohibit new residential uses, which is on the vacant remnant piece, and to allow for a decrease in the minimum lot area from 10 hectares to 19.2 hectares. So the justification for that is that the relief is minor. It doesn't impact the flexibility and viability of the farm parcel, and that all other zoning provisions for the property can be complied with. So administration recommends that the request for a zoning bylaw amendment be approved. And the next step would be if approved, a final decision will be made. A bylaw will be passed at the end of your agenda this evening. Notices will be sent out to the applicant, and then there'll be a 20-day appeal period. Again, there's no third-party appeals, so only the applicant can appeal. So happy to answer any questions at the appropriate time.
Thank you, Tracy, for that report. Does council have any questions? You've got an easy night, Tracy. Have you received any comments from staff?
Yes, and they're summarized in the planner's report.
Did you receive any written submissions on this application?
Yes, and they're summarized in the planner's report.
Before I open the floor to questions from the public, please be advised that if any person from the public wishes to receive further information on the action of council regarding the passing of a bylaw on the proposed amendment, please ensure that they leave their name, address, and postal code with the clerk prior to leaving the meeting. Are there any questions on this zoning bylaw amendment from the public? I see no one here. Anything council wishes to add or question? Okay. If there are no further questions, please be advised that any person wishing further information on the actions of council regarding the passing of a bylaw on the proposed amendment should leave their name, address, and postal code with the clerk prior to leaving the meeting. If you are not the applicant, you should request a copy of the decision, since it may be appealed to the Ontario Land Tribunal by the applicant or another member of the public. The last day to appeal is February 5th, 2025. Okay. Dr. Tara, please.
Moved by Pemberton, seconded by Loveland, that the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives the report of the planner titled Application for Zoning Bylaw Amendment ZBA 08/24 27685 Marsh Line, Municipality of Dutton Dunwich, James Murray, dated January 15th, 2025 for information, and that council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich approves zoning bylaw amendment ZBA 08/24 for property located at 27685 Marsh Line from agricultural A1 zone to site-specific exemption, special agricultural A2-24 zone and special rural residential RS zone in accordance with the site-specific bylaw 2025-02. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you, Tara. This public meeting is now concluded.
Moved by Loveland, seconded by Dreyfus, that the public meeting for zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 08/24 filed by James Murray for property located at 27685 Marsh Line closes at 5:36 PM. All in favor? And that's carried.
We have a request for a delegation. It came in after the agenda was set, but we can still hear the delegation. We need a motion from council to do so.
So moved by Loveland, seconded by Droulard, whereas the request for delegation from Sandy Accioni was received after the 12 noon on the Thursday of the week prior to the scheduled day of the meeting deadline. And whereas section 9.1.3 of procedural bylaw 2023-58 states that council may, at their sole discretion, entertain delegations with less notice as the circumstance may warrant with a 2/3 majority. Now therefore, the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich allows Sandy Accioni to hold a delegation at tonight's January 15th, 2025 meeting regarding development charges. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay. Mr. Accioni, the floor is yours.
Can't do anything without these. Honorable Mayor, councilors, thank you for allowing me the opportunity tonight. I'll keep it brief because there's a lot of people here for other things. As you know, I've been involved in Dutton over the last 7, 8 years, and we've developed Leach Street, brought a lot of homes into the community. Most recently, we're building the commercial corner at Dutton and Curry. A little footnote, I was concerned about the sanitary discussion. We have an application for another 100 lots behind the McDonald's, and that's been put on hold, even though we've spent substantial funds. But anyway, that's not why I'm here, but I did hear about that tonight. And when council looks at allocation, we've been in the queue a long time. We've spent a lot of money. We've done what we said we would do. Others haven't. So hopefully I'll be kept in the loop if there's any developments on handing out allocation, because again, our application was put on hold. But anyway, the reason I'm here tonight is we're developing the commercial corner, and I've been working with Sobeys to get a new food land. And that's been going on for 2 or 3 years. And because of COVID and other things, it's been delayed. They still didn't sign the lease because they were concerned when they came in for building permit, they would have some surprise. And frankly, they thought the surprise would be on maybe Dutton requiring high-end facade. Well, they were surprised, so was I, when they were handed a development charge bill in excess of $120,000. That's in addition to the building permit, which is $55,000, and nobody's disputing that, right? And in addition to the $56,000 that they're asking to contribute to the sanitary shortfall. I myself also got the same invoices. We try to understand what actually happened because they think I was hiding it. I wasn't aware of it. So after discussion with staff and some email correspondence, there was an email that went out to notify me and a bunch of other developers that there was going to be a DC bylaw review. I never got the email. My only suspicion is that because it was a bunch of names on it, it was sent to spam junk folder and I never saw it. Anyway, long story short, the DC bylaw passed surprise, we just found out last Thursday, Friday, that there's probably been some $200,000 tacked onto the development. Sobeys has put everything on hold. When I looked further into, but what happened with the notice of the bylaw passing, so we had an email and I don't want to, well, we had an email notifying us there was a review going on. The decision by council was published in the local newspapers, which you all know because I've only been here for 7, 8 years. Hundreds of emails with staff every year. I don't get the local newspaper. It wasn't mailed to me, but this time it wasn't even emailed to me that there was a bylaw that was going to impact me significantly, over 200,000. Wasn't emailed to me. And here we are on the cusp of starting 3 new buildings, and I have my major tenant, Foodland, putting the brakes on everything. So I'm here tonight to find a resolution. I should also mention when the municipality was reviewing the DC bylaw, we registered our site plan July 11th, 2023. It appears this review started slightly before or just after us registering our site plan. And it passed in early 24, mid 24, but so it'll be 2 years, July 25. But we had a registered site plan. We clearly had our footprint of what we were building, some 35,000 square feet. And lo and behold, we go get our permits thinking we're actually doing something really good for the municipality. And with the hundreds of emails back and forth, I've been asked countless times, has Sobe signed the lease? And no, they haven't, not yet. They still haven't signed the lease. And then we get this DC bylaw. And anyway, so it's very frustrating because I think we worked hard to get what we got there, to get that development going. And to see it kind of fall apart on the finish line, it's just very frustrating. So that's why I'm here tonight. I don't think this property should have been included. If I had given proper notice, I would have appealed this in about 2 seconds. And again, it's not that we're not paying anything. The other thing, I had written all this down, I can hand out my notes. We paid for enclosing the Pioneer Drain, which Spreet did a study. It was assigned to our property because it runs across the front of our property. That was $500,000. We paid it. We paid it because we said, well, there's no development charges. So I guess we have to pay for this infrastructure, just under $500,000. We get to the finish line. By the way, sorry, nobody told you, but here's another 250,000, 225,000, whatever it is when we're finished. It just doesn't seem right. It's something, I don't know what happened in the process, but anyway, something's not right. This project should have never been tagged. It was in there July 23rd. Yeah, I don't know how we never got notified of a passing of a bylaw. That only impacts me. I'm the only developer, I believe, with a site plan registered, working hundreds of emails every year with staff. And I'm the only one it impacts, I think. Maybe there might be someone else out there. I know there's a lot of people say they're going to do a lot of things, but given you don't have sanitary capacity, not sure who's doing what. I'm the only one it impacted, and I'm the one that didn't get a notice. Not written, not email, not a phone call. That's my presentation. Sorry to everyone here that I take up your time tonight. This just happened last.
Thank you, Mr. Accioni. Council has listened, and we can't make a decision here tonight, but we will deliberate on this thing, and staff will report to you. Okay?
I appreciate that.
All right. Yeah, please, anything that you can leave with us would be appreciated. Oh, it's a copy for everyone? Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll carry on here. Item 10, hopefully I didn't miss anything, is on the consent agenda, and I'm not going to read every one of them. I'll take the first 14. Is there any discussion on any one of them items that council would like to have? Everything was in your agenda package. You had an opportunity to read them. Councillor Dreyfus.
Item number 10, in the consent agenda with the Woodstock Children's Welfare Services. I know it pertains to Woodstock, but I think this is a problem, and I only know this because I have a daughter-in-law that works actually in the Children's Aid Welfare Services in Woodstock, and it is a huge problem. I think we need to look at supporting this through a motion of some kind, maybe at another meeting, if council wants to take the time to review this. It is a very serious problem. They have children living in hotels that are under 10 years old, hotels full of kids. They don't know they don't have, the services have been depleted by the province so much that the aid workers don't even know how to handle the situations anymore. So I'm bringing it to your attention tonight that I think it's something that as a council we should support.
Okay, thank you for that. Tara, could we handle that at this time?
If you would like to put together a resolution, we can vote on it, or we can push it till the next meeting and then I can prepare something.
I would be fine with that.
Okay, thank you for the comments. Anything else on the first 14 on the consent agenda? Okay, let's move on to committee reports. We have the Elgin Area Primary Water Supply System and the West Elgin Community Center Board of Management. Deputy Mayor Loveland, you're on both of them. Do you wish to comment further on?
I really don't have too much to add. I guess if there's any questions on those reports, I can attempt to answer them.
Anything from council? Okay, let's move on to the staff monthly reports. We have the manager of roads and facilities, water operations monthly report, wastewater, the building activity report, fire chief monthly report, drainage superintendent report, recreation report, planning report, clerk monthly activity report, and the CAO treasurer monthly activity report. Anyone wish to comment on any one of those? Deputy Mayor Loveland.
I'd like to talk about the sewer manager's report. I did have some discussions with Archie over last month on our flow rate. And he informed me that until we had that nearly 2-inch rain in December, we were well within capacity. That rain caused our capacity to go to 3 times what. So we're getting some water somewhere in there. Hopefully it was enough for Dylan's to come up with some recommendations. But I just wanted, you look at a monthly total, it doesn't really give you the true picture of what was going on there. So I don't know if Tracy has any comment about when Dylan's are coming.
Yeah, Dylan's gathering all that data. They were quite happy that rainfall came so they can get some data from those flow meters, and they'll be coming next week to give updates on our I. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. Archie's monthly report did show 97% capacity, which was less than 100, but that's the situation we're in. Any other comments on any of the reports? Okay. Clerk Tara, please.
Moved by Loveland, seconded by Dreyfus, that the items on the consent agenda be approved. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, I think we're to the point where it is of interest to everyone here. And it is the clerk's report. Tara, if you're prepared for your report at this time.
I do have a little bit of a blurb before I go into my report. So I have provided a high-level report to council on the negotiations of a new agreement since 2022 with our doctors in light of emails and concerns received from residents about skewed numbers and the responsibility of the municipality to provide health services. I'd like to supplement this report with additional information. The medical center is a health service that the municipality does not wish to see leave the community, especially with the shortage of family doctors across the province. Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich continues to advocate to the province of Ontario to provide better models and funding for healthcare so that municipalities are not burdened with paying for healthcare through the provincial taxes as well as municipal taxes. The province has also created a bidding war between municipalities to attract doctors to their communities, and it has been seen where doctors are provided a one-time bonus numbering in the range from $30,000 to $200,000, or reduced facility rent, free lodging for a year, and even a free car lease for a year. The municipality of Dutton Dunwich currently pays for 3 staff. This includes pension, benefits, insurance, all medical devices and supplies, office supplies, computers, furnishing, medical record software, courier, and other contract services. The lab services have been removed from these calculations as the doctors have stated that they do not wish to cover the expenses of the lab. Between the 2 doctors, the municipality will receive $154,000 in rental payments, and this is with the 10% agreed increase implemented. And the cost to run the medical center is budgeted at $335,000. This is where the number of a $181,000 deficit comes from. This is down from $460,000 budgeted in 2024, with $143,000 in rent, which included 5 medical staff, of which 1 was contract, lab services, medical devices and supplies, office supplies, computers, furnishings, medical record software, courier, and other contract services, which without the changes would be a $317,000 deficit. In relative numbers, each $54,000 is equal to 1% of the municipal tax rate. This means that the 2.5% saved can be reallocated to municipal services and aging infrastructure that is in desperate need. I will reiterate that the municipality does not wish to lose doctors in its community, only to make a fair deal for its residents for a service that is not available to all members of the community. When the deal was originally struck to get doctors in the community, the subsidized amount was around $100,000. By not including annual increases to rent for doctors, the municipality fell behind and absorbed more of the cost to run a medical business. During the latest negotiations and investigations into what other municipalities provide their doctors, it showed that Dutton Dunwich has gone above and beyond to keep doctors within the community. We do encourage that all residents with further questions about our budget and municipal spending to attend the budget open houses that will be taking place on Tuesday and Wednesday next week. The one on Tuesday will be from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. and the one on Wednesday will be from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. If you are unable to attend the open house, we encourage you to reach out to the municipal office to answer any of your questions. So I guess I can go into the report now. But so our negotiations team, which is Councillor Pemberton and Deputy Mayor Loveland and myself, we had a meeting with them on January 6th to discuss the agreement, which we had 3 items that were asked to bring back to council for consideration. An inquiry whether rent could be HST free, and this is not an option for us. We do have a commercial facility and therefore we must charge HST on their rent. For the CPI increase, that is slated for 1.6% as of January 1st, 2025. The doctors are asking that we push that back to January 1st, 2026. One of the doctors proposed that this annual increase be fixed at 1.6%, but would prefer that that be a 0 annual increase. The other doctor proposed that the CPI increase be an average of the previous year from September to September. So that increase, we did calculate it out, would have actually been 2.6% instead of 1.6. The third item was for the municipality to keep the name of, or keep our name on the EMR software, the medical record software, and continue to pay for all costs associated. So our team is looking for instruction from council on how you would like to proceed with the negotiations. I did give 3 options. Obviously, 2 of them are not good, but that's why we're looking for direction.
Thank you, Tara, for your report. And Mayor Loveland, you want to begin?
Yeah, as part of the team, I would like to make a few remarks and then come up with a recommendation. I'm sure Corey and Tara can agree with me that we've been through some very tough negotiations with the doctors. As any negotiations, no one gets everything they want, and I think that's kind of where we're at today. We're a little bit apart, not a lot, and we have both sort of said this is as far as we can go. So, I guess it hasn't been I mean, there's been no hard feelings or bad negotiations. But it's been tough, and it's unfortunate that this has dragged on for 7 years with no increases, and we've had to absorb probably a 28% increase in costs there over that same period with no increase in revenue. Saying that, though, I think we're at a point where I think we have to stand back and we'll say, we don't want to lose our doctors. I'm prepared that we go back to them and say, I'm not that concerned about the computer program, if it's in their name or our name. We're paying for it under the agreement anyways, and our staff is going to be operating. So if something happens, we're probably going to be liable anyways. So that's not something I want to be a deal breaker here. I think the other thing is the HST. I don't think anything we can do about that because we are registered. I just want to make the comment that some of the other doctors that are part of a clinic pay a percentage of their income. They don't pay HST because those clinics aren't registered. But we're caught with that being a municipality. So that's something we really can't do anything about unless there's a different way of setting everything up. The other issue, and I take a little bit different away from what Tara said. I think both doctors didn't want to see that 1.6 increase that we had in our contract. And just so everyone knows, that's the consumer price index increase, and that's what we base our wage increases on here in the municipality. They wanted to forego the January 1st increase. One doctor would agree to an increase annually, but he didn't. He wanted some sort of limits. The way it's designed, it could be more than what we're looking at now. The other doctor, I think he's pretty much opposed to any kind of increase. I think it's time we settle this. I'm calling recommending that we go ahead and maybe we shorten the term of this agreement up to 2 years and leave everything like it is and get things kind of back on so that we can maybe negotiate a little better. It's been a tough negotiations as it's not something that's been pleasant for anyone. So that's where I'm sort of coming from, and I'd also like to see the lab left for that 2-year contract. I know it's not quite what we wanted, but we did get probably within 30,000 of our goal. But
Okay,
that would be my recommendation.
thank you for your comments. Councillor Pemberton, would you care to comment?
Yeah, I agree with Deputy Mayor Loveland. We've, this has been going on a lot longer than I've been on council. And so it was a big learning curve for me to walk into the negotiations and said right from the beginning, we got to do everything we can to keep the doctors, and then finding out how much we've subsidized over the last years and stuff like that was a big surprise. Understanding, again, we still want to do everything we can to keep our doctors. I think everybody's kind of gone back and forth a little bit, and frustrations and discussions were tough, but I think I agree with Deputy Mayor Loveland. I think we're at a point, we do need to get this done. Obviously, the community is concerned about it. I would agree that one doctor was willing to do the increase, but wanted to push it to 2026. The other doctor, while we just gave 10%, I don't really want to do any more increase. I think we've kind of looked at budget without any increase. We're still the budget as presented. So I would agree. Let's go back. Let's get this done to start. Let's shorten it to a 2-year contract and start looking to the future and start the negotiations even sooner, and maybe trying to move forward with trying to get something better or more services in there to help offset the costs.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Dreyfus.
Thank you, Mayor Hens. It has dragged on a long time, and it is time that it comes to a close. I can live with some areas of increase, like even the 1.6 for this year. We got our raise. I guess I've said all along in our council, it's sometimes we looked at everything on the expense side of the whole situation, as what it was costing the municipality. And it is important, because that's what our job is as council. And it is the job of administration to manage the overall costs. And we went through a year last year that we paid well over 10% in tax, property tax increase. And we're swimming. Like, as a municipality, we are in bad shape financially, to put it plain. We've had to sit here in meetings with our with our accountant and sync, because we are trying to figure out how to resolve our financial issues. We've got 2 streets in Dutton that need to be repaired, that are well over $1 million per street, and on a $5 million budget. So when we start looking at cost, and the doctor's office was one of them that we had to address. We had to address many other things that the public doesn't know about. But that's the reality of where we are. So I guess in conclusion, I can live with the proposal that's before us, because we did trim a lot of money off of our primary budget. But I'm still on the side of the fence that says we have diminished the service. We've lost our Thursday night, the Thursday evenings where we could have the open clinic. We don't work Fridays. We maintain all the staff, where every medical clinic or medical team, how that operates is the doctors, all the funding comes into the medical team, all the expenses are allocated, and the doctors are paid their remaining share of the funding allocations. We assume all the responsibilities for our medical staff, which, it can work, but our goal was to get it closer to net zero. So I guess my proposal to council would be that we accept this going forward. We accept this proposal, get the deal done, but I still would like to see council or administration or some form of a process that we enhance the service. If we have an expense problem we resolve expenses. If we have a revenue problem, we increase revenue. So if that means getting a third doctor in here to pay rent, then that's what we have to work on. It's hard, but it is something that we can work on, and we have a big enough facility for it. That way the costs are spread out amongst more doctors that work in the facility. So I'm in that camp of either maintaining what we have, I guess, and trying to keep the costs under control. But the bigger part of me says we have to do a better job, whether that be a committee of council that meets monthly with the medical team, the medical center, and that we start to unify the process with everybody, or to me, to be honest with you, this is still not going to work. This is still not going to work. This doesn't resolve a problem we have with the medical team in general. It has to be an arm's length, unified agreement between our municipality and the community. And if we're disjointed, it's still going to fail. And that's my honest opinion. So let's get this done and move forward. But my recommendation is we work hard to make it better, whatever that takes.
Councillor Doolard.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. For the members of the public that are sitting here, as a council, I just want to say, as a council, we strive to spend your money in a fiscally responsible way. And sometimes we have to look at really tough situations and cuts. And it doesn't make us feel comfortable either. We put together a team that have worked really hard in negotiations. And my doctor is also sitting in that building, so I don't want to see the doctor go away either. So clearly, we weren't reflecting maybe what a lot of members of council or members of the community thought, but we are still trying to get this done and retain 2 doctors in our community. I definitely would support the 2 years agreement. It will give us an opportunity to explore a different way to administer it and be fiscally responsible to you. I'm happy that you are aware of what has transpired over this period of time, because I think it's important that you know where your money is being spent. Just as a side note, over the weekend, I became aware of something, and I hadn't had an opportunity to present it to council, but I'll let them know about it right here. AMTCO in July has a conference, and their focus is how to recruit and retain doctors in a rural community. So I have some interest, and if it's on my own dime, then I'm going to go and see what information that I can gather so that we can keep doctors in our community and keep servicing you and spending your money in a fiscally responsible way. So that's all I have.
Thank you. I'll just add my comments as well. I'm glad too that we've gone public with this. I've had a busy day. I'm sure the rest of council did, our phone and email, and that's the way it should be. And I just want to say to everybody here that Dutton Dunwich hasn't failed in healthcare. It was never our responsibility to do it. This falls on the Ontario government. Healthcare in this province, in this country, is in crisis. And the taxpayer of Dutton Dunwich have pulled their own weight, more than their share. I had a meeting in Ottawa with Health Minister Jones last August. And the intent was just to tell our story. And I proceeded to tell her that the taxpayers of Dutton Dunwich provide a facility for our doctors. She said, well, that's good. A lot of people do that. And they do, a lot of communities. And I said, we pay for virtually everything, all the utilities, supplies. And she kind of sat back a little on that one. And then I said, The medical staff are municipal employees. Every one of them, paid for by the taxpayers as municipal employees. And at that point, she sat back and said, that's highly unusual. And it is. And I have not come across a municipality as generous as Dutton Dunwich has been in providing health care. As Councillor Dreyfus stated, we are mandated to do certain things. We keep your roads, the parks, municipal buildings, sidewalks that are in desperate need. And for clarity, my doctor's down the road there too, as is Deputy Mayor Loveland. We are not trying to close that building. And I just want to make that clear to everyone. We're trying to be fiscally responsible, look after the things that we must do, and there's not enough dollars to do what we must do, and maintain our medical center. So we will get to work on this. We will get a deal done. And as I said, we'd be available to answer any questions. This council, and I further want to say that this staff provide us with information, be it financial or legal advice. That's what they do. The five of us make the decisions. So if you want to point a finger or anything, it is council that is responsible for every decision made on this matter and other ones, not staff. They are working hard on behalf of everyone here. Okay. Do we give our negotiating team direction at this point to wrap this thing up?
Yep.
I think everybody, I'll just, where I'm at, we did manage to get 10%. And that's great. I can live with CPI when it comes out next September and starting at 20, I can live with that. I'm still concerned about the software and our liability on medical records. That one, quite honestly, keeps me up at night. So I'm still wary about that one. But I defer to council if council, the majority is willing to accept that risk. I'll follow whatever council decides. Councillor Dreyfus, go ahead.
Just a question for staff. How does have we got legal advice on the EMR?
Clerk Tara, please.
So previously presented to council in a report, our insurance, they do have coverage for us in the amount of $1 million with a $10,000 deductible, and that's for any data breaches and privacy concerns. Additionally, we have that malpractice that can be lumped in with that, and that's up to $5 million per incident. Our legal opinion from the lawyer was that we would be liable for any actions related to a breach, whether it's due to staff error or impropriety due to a cyber attack. And if the doctors license the software and are the health information custodian, we could still be liable. But there is the Health Information Privacy and Protection Act. It's the health version of MFIPA. So we would still be liable under that if our name is on the software. We also have to account for any staff time and the cost to address the breach, because we are responsible if there is a breach that the municipality has to notify everybody in the system that there was a breach. Then we also have to go into investigations as the municipality. That's on us with our name on the software.
Go ahead, Councillor Pember.
Yeah, and from my understanding, I get everything Tara's saying. But when we look back at it, it's our staff operating it. So no matter what happens, we're gonna get listed in the suit regardless. Because our name's on it, we might end up being a little bit more liable than if it's not. But in the long run, we're gonna get listed anyways, so for the amount, I don't know, but I would say either way, we're going to be liable, so I don't see it as much of an issue as I thought it originally was.
Not a deal breaker in your opinion, Councilor Pemberton. Okay. Is there nods or heads on that one? Okay. Where are we on the increase? We need direction to the negotiating team. Councilor Dreyfus, where are you on that one?
I personally, we've got the increase to date. We're moving along. I'm fine with letting it go till, is it September is what we're discussing here?
CPI comes
Yeah.
out September of every
Yeah.
year.
So I'm fine with that. I can live with that right now. I don't think it's enough money to take it to that next level of negotiations. When I do the calculations, it's like $1,200 or something. I don't know what it is. It's not worth the effort. So.
Yeah, and just to clarify that, I think there was two options. There was one doctor was okay with the 10% increase and has already started paying it. So one option is no increase with a 2-year term. The other option is an increase of the September CPI for January 1st, 2026. So those are our two options, just for clarification on which one we want to go with.
Regardless, I would like to see that increase on an annual basis. I think that's still the right way to do business. So.
Okay, was there any other point of contention? Were those the two issues, Deputy Mayor Loveland?
I think that's basically the two issues, and I really more lenient and I think we just get a deal done for 2 years, and I think we've been through some of it. But inflation is something none of us have control over.
That's right. Councilor Drewler.
Just, and my concern here is if we're at this point and we've gotten the 10%, is that, CPI increase gonna be a deal breaker for one or both of the doctors? I want your sense of that, because for $1,200, to me, it's not worth it. It's not worth breaking the deal for,
I think
because we're doing a short-term deal to try to figure something out.
Is it fair to give our negotiating team the authority to make that call? Okay.
I would support that, to give them, if they've got the feel, they've been doing it for about a year. So if you have the feeling that that's a deal breaker for one or both of the doctors, I say eat it and because it might not be. Maybe it's just a sense of frustration when you got in the moment, but
Okay.
I'm okay with that.
Everything?
One more comment.
Councilor Dreyfus.
I guess and I'm fine with everything we've discussed here this evening. Can we propose to them in a friendly manner that at least we sit down every 3 months and have a discussion about how we can enhance the doctor's office? That is something that we haven't done it. It's the fault of whoever's fault it is, the previous council or administration. I don't really care whose fault it is, but can we not come to the table on a regular basis and say, how can we make this better? Because we are disjointed with the staff at the medical center, and we need to resolve that issue, or there's going to be animosity going forward. So that's I really think we need to pursue that.
Okay, go ahead.
That's something we did discuss in our negotiations, was sitting down every couple of months or maybe every 3 months and just going over any problems. You're right, we haven't done that for a long time. And it's, the staff there are in a bit of a difficult situation as well. And I have to say this because even though there are staff, they really report mostly to the doctors. So they're They've got two bosses and it is a difficult situation. We have to understand that, and I think we need to work that in our discussion so that we can kind of build a better bridge than we have today.
Okay, a 2-year deal dumps this onto a new council. Just throwing that out there.
Not the intention, but yes, it would, but it's something we probably should start before that.
The hope was that we would get to where we wanted to be during this term of council and not kick this football down the field, but sounds like we've had some gains. And of course, negotiation, you start at a point and they start at a point and you hope to meet in the middle. I don't think we're quite in the middle, but we may have to live with it.
No, and I don't think it's the intention to kick it down the road to the next council. It was already discussed in these negotiations to meet every few months. And I think once the deal is done, let everybody settle in for 3 to 4 months, 6 months, and then start having these quarterly meetings. And that's when the negotiation starts again. It doesn't wait till the end of the contract to start negotiation and start conversations on how to provide better service, how to provide more service. Can we provide more service? How do we attract more service? These are all questions we ask ourselves all the time. We have to find a way to do it. And it's very difficult and we can go to conferences, but every municipality in Ontario is struggling to do this. So it's not just something that's easy. But I think the negotiations start again 6 months from now, not 2 years from now. So that's just my 2 cents.
Okay, thank you. The team has direction.
I would
Is that-
just like to clarify the directions. So we're going to keep the software in our name and continue to pay for it. And we are going to bypass the CPI until 2026. Is that it? Or we're not going to do CPI at all for the two-year term?
I believe the will of council was we're gonna give you some leeway on that one. I would try and get it, but I don't think council wants it to break a deal. Is that fair to say?
That would be correct.
Okay. Good discussion. There's nothing further. Clerk Tara, please.
Moved by Dreyfus, seconded by Drewler, that the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives the report of the clerk titled Medical Center Agreement Update, January 2025, dated January 15th, 2025 for information, and that council provide direction to the negotiations team on how to proceed. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay. That is the end of our medical discussion. Thank you, everyone, for coming. You're welcome to stick around. We got some more exciting stuff coming up.
That'd be great. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Let's just take 5 minutes here at this time, council. Okay, let me see. Clerk Tara, you have another report.
So before council is an alternative voting methods report. After the 2022 election, we did do that by tabulator. I found it as my first election on my own to be very, very difficult. We're having a hard time getting volunteers for it. It's hard to run without the support that we have. So an ulterior method is by doing online and telephone voting. It is a much cheaper option, as I have outlined in the pros and cons, the differences between the two. And it's approximately half the cost to run it. There is the County of Middlesex soon is going to be hosting an RFP with a lot of the televote companies. And I will have a chance to be able to actually go in and sit in with them for the demonstrations. And then we can actually sign on with the County of Middlesex to get their rates. So the more people that sign on, we can actually get it as a cheaper option. So basically to get that process going, I'd like to just lock down that we can go ahead with an alternate style of voting. If you have any questions on the software or how it's going to affect our voters, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Deputy Mayor Levin, you have a question?
Couple, are we still gonna have, say, one poll where us old farts can still go and do a ballot? I don't understand confused. I don't mean to be smart when I say that, but you know, people are hard to change. And I guess the other part of that question, or my other question is, Southwolds have been using a mail-in for 3 elections now, and they seem to be really happy with it. Is that something else we could look at? Their turnout, I think, is a lot higher than ours because of that mail-in, but.
It was a bit higher. It was a bit higher last year, but I don't think it was a lot. It was a bit, but not considerable.
And I don't know, was never there, election.
How did you manage that?
I think it's worked well. I spoke to Mayor Jones down there about it, and they're quite happy with what they've got going on down there. So I don't know whether you've looked at other municipalities and got feedback.
Yeah, so actually my understanding at our clerks meetings is that Southwold is looking at maybe going to online voting as well. There is a lot of work involved with doing mail-in as well. It's the same thing as doing tabulator voting. You have some less people, like you would probably need half as many people as holding an on-site tabulator voting.
You
But-
have to have a locked room and like there's a bit more to it.
Yeah, and you also have to account if there's a postal strike during that period of time, you don't know what that is. If there's delays in any sort of post, that's a problem. But to answer your first question, yes, there will still be availability here, like on voting day for sure. We'll definitely have something here in council chambers with a couple of computers set up, and we only need 1 or 2 staff to attend. We don't need to have 10 people there to do it. And as well with the online voting, it actually opens up a lot earlier. People can vote 24/7 for, I believe it's 2.5 weeks ahead of the vote. So they can vote at their leisure. They can vote at 1 o'clock in the morning. They can vote at noon. They have their choice of when they'd like to vote.
Go ahead.
I guess my only comment is I like the idea, I like the thought of it. We hear it all the time about communication with the public. I would just hazard or say, whatever we decide to do, I like the idea. We need to really broadly communicate and probably frequently communicate with the public that we're changing to this so that they're aware. Because the typical demographic that vote may not be the ones that are on our social medias and things of that nature. So I would just, that would be my only caution, is that we make sure our communications path is done well.
It's really wholesome, yeah.
So I do have a communications plan in mind for that as well. It was actually interesting after the last election, AMO and AMCTO, they put together a presentation on who was voting online because they were trying to get more people to do online voting. And it was interesting to see that it's actually the older population that is voting online more than anyone else.
Okay. Thank you. I believe council supports that. Tara, so you have a resolution?
So moved by Drouillard, seconded by Pemberton, that the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives the report of the clerk titled Alternative Voting Methods 2026 Municipal Election dated January 15th, 2025 for information, and that council approve the use of internet telephone voting as the alternative voting method for the 2026 municipal election being held Monday, October 26th, 2026, and that staff be authorized to execute any agreements necessary to implement internet telephone voting, and that the clerk be requested to prepare the necessary bylaw for consideration by the council at a future meeting to authorize the internet voting and voting by telephone process. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, thank you. You've had a busy night, Tara. We'll drop down to 12, the other staff reports, and it's the Field of Dreams Capital Grant. I think they're looking for support on this one. Anyone wish to speak to that? Okay, pretty clear. Clerk Tara, please.
Moved by Pemberton, seconded by Loveland, that the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives the report of the Recreation and Administration Assistant titled Field of Dreams Capital Grant dated January 15th, 2025 for information, and that council approves and supports the Dutton Dunwich Minor Baseball Association application to Jay's Care Field of Dreams Capital Grant for Diamond 3 renovations. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, any unfinished business? Can we sneak in a discussion on the delegation? Is that an appropriate place to do that, Tara? Okay, let's do that. The indication was council had heard them, and we will discuss it and give staff direction on how to respond. So
Why we're red group.
let's open up the floor. We all heard his concerns. Who wants to start?
Oh,
Go ahead.
I'll throw my hat out there, my neck out there, whatever you want to call it. I have mixed emotions about this. We did everything right by announcing the meetings, holding public meetings, sharing the information for the public meetings. It's unfortunate that he missed the emails or the notifications and that it went to his junk mail or whatever. I struggle with this because we have DCs for a reason. However, I do feel personally that if because his site plan was in prior, if he had shown up at that meeting at that time with a site plan that was approved, my position is I feel I probably would have exempted him from DCs at that time because he had an approved site plan. And I'm not saying that we should maybe exempt him totally from DCs at this time. I'm not sure if that's an option or not, but I do think if he had to come in at that time and ask for an exemption, I feel my position would have been probably to provide an exemption at that time. So I guess that's where my head is on this right now, but yeah.
Okay. Any further comments? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
I'm glad he settled down because he was pretty upset Monday when he phoned me. So, and I didn't promise anything either. I just said we will get it in council and talk about it. I do know he's had a real struggle trying to get this put together with Sobeys. And I certainly don't want to lose it. I echoed Corey's concerns that we did everything right. Perhaps we could have gone a little over and above and let him know about it, but that's water under the bridge, and maybe we remember that next time we do something like this. I mean, I don't want to hang staff out to dry because I think they did what was required under the act. So I don't know. I think we have to do something to get this thing going. It would look pretty bad on all of us if it dies in natural death today. Whether it will or not, I don't know, but.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know. I think, I remember sitting around the table. I think we did everything in our right mind to let everybody know about the development charges. So I'm not saying Sandy's wrong or whatever. I don't know, but to me, that doesn't matter. The point is we have DC charges. The only, we have to have a grounds though. We have to have some form of grounds and to exempt this because we can't have every developer coming to our door and saying like, if it's a site plan, that's our grounds for, um, he got the site plan in before, then that's our grounds for doing it. But there has to be a reason why we're doing this because it is a bylaw. And that, so whatever that reason is, if it's this, to me, that's the most logical one. Because the site plan was before the DC charges were implemented. So that would be justification on my part. Can we negotiate something with them? Can we do like 25,000? Can we do something? That like I'm suggesting we do something because I think there's a part of his responsibility as well that he still has to maintain it. And I'm concerned about other developers going through this process because I don't want to have every time we have something come to the table that we have to discuss this, right? So, and I'm not saying he's not, like, I'm supportive of doing something, so.
Okay. Counselor Goulart, do you want to comment?
Yeah, and I don't have it in my notes. What was the date that we implemented our DC?
March 10th, 2024.
March 10th, 2024.
And he has 2 years from the date council approves his application, which was March 23rd, 2022.
2 years to do what? Or 2 years. that he's
Get his
exempt?
first building permit. Yes,
But would he have done
To
that
get
with
with McDonald's, he would have gotten his first building.
that was,
permit.
they got the building permit before we passed the DC.
So then
So any
the
future
registered
building-
site plan for July 11th did not give him any wiggle room. That's what I'm asking, like, and this is my other concern, is that grocery store is not staying there. That building's gonna close, so then we,
No, well, sorry.
if Sobeys pulls out, what do we do? We're gonna have a room full of really angry constituents. So we kind of have to, I mean, I don't, I'm not saying, like, I think staff did what is required. I'm not trying to bust toss him and say, well, whatever, you should have been looking through your junk mail. I don't know, like, cause I don't really know what happened. But is there any way that we can work through this with him? And I agree with Henry. I don't want everybody coming back and asking us, but there are some pieces here. And so is there, is there a way that we could work through this with him?
Yeah, so there are exemptions in the Development Charges Act that we could have. It's difficult to say that now. There are exemptions in the Development Charges Act that if a site plan was approved prior to the passing of the bylaw, we could have exempted them right in the bylaw specifically. And I guess maybe I should have clarified that when I said that if he had to come when we were passing the bylaw, I think I probably would have looked at exempting because he had an approved site plan. We knew he was moving forward. He was having a hard time getting the leases signed, I think we would have had, I'm having a hard time having compassion for it because, well, it sucks to be you should have stayed up on your stuff and but hindsight being 2020 and us wanting development and wanting to be pro-development, the line in the sand is he had his site plan in. He had his site plan in July 2022.
Yeah, his site plan was approved by council in 2022.
So that's your line in the sand. Like I said, it would have been easier if it had been brought to us before we passed the bylaw, because we would have had the opportunity to, because we wanted to exempt industrial, which is what we've done. We didn't specifically want to exempt commercial, but we could have specifically exempted only that commercial
Because they.
property because the site plan was already approved. So I guess that's just kind of try and help you understand where the line could have been. Now it isn't, so we kind of, I don't know how we go back now and maybe unfortunately Planner Tracy isn't on, maybe she would have been able to answer that better than I can. I know council has the ability to exempt DCs, whether the bylaw is passed or not. We do have the authority to do that, I believe, within the bylaw. I believe he has to formally request that the DCs be exempt if I remember correctly.
He has to, yes, he has to come to council and do a formal presentation on the reason. It has to be that he thinks it was miscalculated, or there's a couple other things. Terry, did you bring that printout? I didn't bring it
As
either.
far as his options, Tara, did you?
Okay, anyways, yeah, he has to do it, and then if council, doesn't agree to waive them, then he can go to the land tribunal to dispute it. So,
So there is an appeal process.
mhm.
Okay.
Unless council decides, I mean, I think council has a right to decide, and that's why I kind of went, oh crap, because I meant to email Daryl earlier to see what your reasoning can be to exempt them, but I don't know if he's gonna email me back, so.
But
No.
we made the Lions Club, they're paying, but there's,
The Lions, their application wasn't complete until September of 2024, I believe. So they've got 2 years to build and get their building permits for their residents. And if they are after the 2 years, they will have to pay it as well, except for their units that are
Affordable.
designated as affordable.
Yeah.
I think the Lions Club facility, the whole thing's exempt though, because the development charges access that.
They're not a registered housing corporation for that act. They're a not-for-profit organization, but not a registered not-for-profit, because they are gonna make profit off of some of their units, because they couldn't run if they couldn't. But yeah, I've had this discussion with Duncan, and he's fine with, he understands it now, but they will have like 18 units, I think, that would be exempt no matter what. But he's got 2 years. He'll be well within his
So he won't
time.
necessarily have to pay DCs.
No,
Is
he won't be, because he'll have it all done before the
Yeah,
2
he's
years.
already applied for his
Yes.
permits, right?
Yeah,
So he
yeah,
shouldn't have to pay any
No,
DCs.
Okay.
yes.
We would be setting a precedent here that I'm having a lot of trouble with. We've also had, and it's a similar situation, COVID threw a monkey wrench into a lot of things. We had a resident here planned on building, actually sold his house, planned on building back then, and building materials went sky high and interest rates took a jump and he had to hold back. And he got caught that too. He came in and applied for building permit, and lo and behold, he had DCs on it. And we all heard about that. So, similar situation. Are we opening the door for others to expect the same treatment?
I see your point. I don't feel we are, because there's nobody else out there that has an approved site plan in place right now. Like there is no other commercial or residential development that has actual approved site plans in place. So I don't think we're setting a precedent that we open ourselves up to that. I understand and I'm, don't get me wrong, I have mixed emotions about this, I really
Yeah.
do. But I don't think we're setting a precedent, because he had an approved site plan. That's the trigger for me, is it was approved, it was already there. And I mean, again, I go back to, if he had to come to the council meeting at that point in time, I probably would have exempted it. I don't know what council would have decided, but yeah.
Well, a lot of builds, they don't need a site plan,
Right.
if you build a house. So
That's right.
I look at it as a similar situation. It did, but that's not our fault. And maybe it's not his fault. I know there was correspondence. We reached out to Sandy numerous times for, we wanted a press release, all this stuff. So there was communication going on here. And I'm having a hard time believing with all of the notice that were required, and we did, that he wasn't aware of it or his planner wasn't aware of it. That it was a months-long process. They just don't happen at a meeting. You go through the process, and Watson and Associates were here how many times? And when did they start? So I'm struggling with that. Also, he had a planner working for him. Was he not aware of it? A separate entity applied for the building permit. Did they not do their due diligence? He didn't apply. It was, I believe, his architect firm or Sobeys architect firm has the building permit. Somebody didn't do their homework on this one. And in my opinion, it's an argument, could be a legal argument between the developer and Sobeys or the architect for Sobeys. I think that's where the dispute is, not between the developer and Dutton Dunwich. I think he has an out, not an out. There's an appeal process. And I think for transparency, I don't want council around here to approve a one-off on this one. I think for our, what's the word I'm looking for? We have to face the public if we write off $113,000. So I think it has to be done in a certain way, not just a discussion around here, okay, it's gone. Go ahead, Councillor Drulard.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm afraid of opening a can of worms here, but my other piece is it would really be nice to hear from Tracy, Planner Tracy. And like, I don't think we're making a decision sitting around here tonight. But I think it would be really a good idea to get some information from Planner Tracy. And also just food for thought. When we had those meetings, I was a bit shocked that no developers showed up to those meetings. I really was. I think we talked about it, like, there's nobody here. So, I don't know, you know how things work, like stuff goes where it shouldn't go when we're sending it out. And so maybe it happened to us. Maybe like, I don't know, I don't wanna.
I reached
Because
out
we
to,
know that it went out.
yeah,
We know we did what we had needed to do. So, I mean, it's tough either way, but I also don't want us not to have a grocery store. And I don't know whether that's just idle threats or whether that's something we need to really be concerned about, because I'm telling you, if I can't imagine what the day will look like. So maybe if we get some advice from Planner Tracy, that would be really helpful, because I don't want to give away 100 or exempt 113. That is there a way we can work toward something, and like kind of like what Corey said.
and I wanted to know when Tracy was home from vacation too, and was there any correspondence? I mean, they talk quite a bit by email or whatever, so like I said, I'm struggling to find out or to understand how somebody like him working in Dunwich was not aware that we had planned, got talked about for months on end of implementing DCs. I'm having trouble with that. So go ahead, Ken.
Just a quick comment. It's 113,000 for Sobeys, but it's actually 197,000 for the three, because he's gonna do the pet value and the dollar amount at the same time. So, I mean, those three buildings had a building permit of 80,000. Had 197,000 on development charges and 136,000 or something on sewer capacity charges, so.
But I agree with the mayor, let's get Tracy, the planner Tracy involved in, but development charges are common everywhere. Like, it's just, it doesn't matter. Sobeys knows, they're building, I mean, it is what it is. Like, they're doing it everywhere. So I mean, reading about it in the news in different cities now, like, it's happening everywhere. So I'm not saying we don't review the process. We don't review this situation, but there has to be, like, I wouldn't want to face the public if we write this off and then, not do our due diligence and have a firm, clear cut reason why we're making that decision. So, and you know, I'm on that camp with Corey, like that date may be something we can work with, but we better be doggone sure. That's, so.
You're right. It's public dollars that we're dealing with.
And
Okay.
we're putting sidewalks, you know,
Yeah.
you know, we have a sidewalks going to that facility. And that was 75,000 we put in the budget, or 100 almost, and that's.
At county
Partially comes out of
council, sorry, at county council yesterday, the Lions sent a request for a sidewalk from Cal to the commercial development on the side of Pioneer. And Peter gave a report on that, and the bottom line is, county don't do sidewalks. Which we knew, and I wish I'd heads up on that note, but I knew they were talking about it, but I didn't. So I'm sitting there, oh my goodness, I knew where it would go, it would go nowhere, but it's gonna come to us. And I think there needs to be something on there. We can't have scooters going down Pioneer. I mean, that's crazy. So there are these costs that we're gonna incur because of what he's doing out there, was the whole reason for DCs. So Henry, I agree. Let's do a fact check here. Let's make sure, and I'm convinced, because staff has worked on this, that due diligence on our part was done. It wasn't done on the developer or Sobeys. I don't think they did their homework either. And
I
so-
don't even think Sandy was disputing that it was sent out. I just think that he just doesn't know why he didn't see it.
Could be. Sobeys, I did a little research, their annual sales, they're part of a conglomerate, is $30 billion. The permit there is, I think the value was 4.3 million on the Sobeys. So the 113 is 2.6% on the building permit costs. I don't think that's a deal breaker to Sobeys. I really don't.
Tough to deal with. I know.
Well,
They are, I've dealt with Sobeys, they're not fun to deal with. And
Look how long it took for police to get signed. I think it was I think it was actually Sandy's architect or
Or Sobeys
Well-
architect.
engineer that applied for it, not Sobeys, was it?
It would have to be, Sandy owns the property still,
Mm-hmm.
so he would be on the application because you have to show the property owner on the application. Now, whether he's the actual applicant or not,
He wasn't.
he may not be, but he would have to be on the application.
Yeah, because
Because
he's,
you have to have a property owner, you have to have that.
right, because he's leasing that, so it's still his building, so yeah, he'd have to be on it, yeah.
Okay, direction to staff. Let's loop Tracy into this one.
I would say Watson and Associates more than Tracy, they're the ones who did our DC studies, and I would think they would know better
Okay.
what avenues we have or what choices we have.
The reason I wanted to talk to Tracy or have her in front of council, there's a trail of communication out there between Tracy and Sandy. There's streams of it. And I keep going back. I can't believe somebody working that closely in Dutton Dunwich wasn't aware of this. Anyway,
And I guess with that comment, then it's hard to believe that we wouldn't have, seeing he is a key stakeholder, sent him a direct email personally, or a direct phone call personally. If that's the relationship, I have a hard time. I guess I struggle with the communication because we keep talking about communication, and how our communication, we have struggled with our communications and we hear it from the public, we hear it from developers, we hear it from builders. We've just got to find a better way of communicating, and it's every municipality. Don't take that the wrong way. It's not just us. But I just, yeah. We got to find a way to do better, I guess, and so we can stay out of these circumstances.
Okay, and we are following up with other developers. Did you receive the email? Okay, and
And they did.
and they did. So, okay. We'll we've drawn no conclusions here tonight. I didn't expect we would. So I think maybe if staff wants to at least get back to Sandy, that council is taking it under consideration and we need more information, and leave it at that for now. I think we have to respond to them somehow. Okay. Fair enough. Let's wrap this up as soon as we can. Any new business? Any announcements? Okay, Tara, we're down to bylaws. And we're doing them all then, eh?
Yep.
Okay,
So moved by Loveland, seconded by Dreyfus, that bylaw 2024-54 being a bylaw to borrow on the credit of the corporation in the amount of $312,000 for the improvement of the David Carroll drain be read a third time and passed. All in favor?
speak to,
And that's carried.
okay, can I interrupt for a bit, Tara?
Can we go backwards for a sec?
Okay.
Sorry, this is from Daryl. Technically, they should not, as they would be in contravention of the bylaw and could be considered bonusing under the Municipal Act. See relevant section below. Economic Development Services assisted prohibited. Despite any act, a municipality shall not assist directly or indirectly any manufacturing business or other industrial or commercial enterprise through the granting of bonuses for the purpose of, for that purpose, same, without limiting some section, municipality shall not grant assistance by giving or lending any property to the municipality, including money, guaranteeing, borrowing, leasing, or selling any property of the municipality at below fair market value, or giving a total or partial exemption from any levy, charge, or fee. Exception. Subsection 1 does not apply to a council exercising its authority under subsection 28(6), 7, or 7.2 of the Planning Act, or under section 3651 of this act. Anyways,
So in layman's terms.
yeah, in layman's terms, it would be considered bonusing.
Unless that date means something.
Yeah, and I've gone over this with Daryl a few times about it's the date of the application. It's not the day he registered his site plan or anything else. It's the date his application was approved by council.
The date is that application was deemed complete.
Yeah. So I will discuss more with Daryl tomorrow on, I'll go, I mean, that's really hard to read, but I know you were waiting for an answer from Watson, so that was it. So
Okay, I guess the bottom line is we better be on solid ground if we do this.
Yes.
Okay. All right, further work on that. Tara, sorry to
sorry,
interrupt.
Daryl. Forward.
All good. All right, so moved by Dreyfus, seconded by Drulard, that bylaw 2024-55 being a bylaw to borrow on the credit of the corporation in the amount of $180,000 for the improvement of the David Carroll Drain number 3 be read a third time and passed. All in favor? And that's carried.
We're on a roll.
Moved by Drulard, seconded by Pemberton, that bylaw 2025-02 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 2022-50 for property municipally known as 27685 Marsh Line be read a first, second, and third time and passed. All in favor? And that's carried. And moved by Pemberton, seconded by Loveland, that bylaw 2025-03 being a bylaw to exempt certain lands from part lot control be read a first, second, and third time and passed. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you. Okay, I guess we do have a closed item. So Get us into close, please, Tara.
Moved by Loveland, seconded by Dreyfus, that the council for the municipality of Dutton Dunwich now moves into a session of the meeting that shall be closed to the public at 7:03 PM. In accordance with section 2392 of the Municipal Act, SO 2001, chapter 25, for discussion of the following matters. A, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality, section 2392E of the Municipal Act. A summary of open legal matters. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay,
Please hold. Moved by Drulard, seconded by Pemberton, that bylaw 2025-04, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the municipal council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich, be read a first, second, and third time and passed. All in favor? And that's carried.
okay. See the next meeting minutes, and is everyone going to Roma? Okay, let's see you in Toronto. And the next meeting, Dylan will be here. Okay, that's good. The one we're waiting for, Clerk Terry.
Moved by Pemberton, seconded by Loveland, that the meeting of the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich closes at 7:13 PM. All in favor? And that's carried.